Hi Neha, hi Abhilasha. Welcome to Zencation's podcast. I'm so happy we are finally doing this. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to do this.
Same. Thank you so much for having me. Super
And get
excited.
when I have guests over who are in different time zones and I finally managed to find like a time slot that works for everybody, I have like my fingers crossed hoping that it happens. So yeah, here we
I know.
are. Neha, why don't you tell us your story, how you got into retreats and what is the retreat this time about?
Yeah, sure. So, up in a fairly typical middle class home, where I watch my parents work super hard to provide, and then that kind of instilled this need to achieve in me, right? This very mainstream way of looking at success, go to the best schools, go to the best colleges, work in the best companies. You just run, right, to grow up that corporate ladder, or just achieve. Like, I mean, that's what's been ingrained into you from such a young age. So my story was pretty similar. Went to the best schools, best colleges, got to live in the biggest cities of the world. And then in 2017 was when I started feeling like, what am I doing? What is my purpose? Why am I here? All of these existential questions, I suppose, that I didn't really have the answers to. And moreover, I didn't know how to navigate these feelings, right? Because I had this amazing job. By then, I was living in Paris, making really great money. Um, I had a great social, network, but this emptiness inside me, I couldn't really place. Like, I couldn't understand where it was coming from. Um, and then these feelings of guilt and shame, coupled with these feelings of guilt and shame as well, because I was like, how dare I? Because, I have this amazing life, a life that so many other people dream of, especially when I look back where I came from, right? Like, so many people don't even have the opportunity to step out of that shell or that bubble. And here I was living this amazing dream life for many others and feeling this way. So, at that point in time, I didn't know, so I did what I knew what to do, which is work harder, work more, take up more responsibility to suppress these feelings, and decided to take up a bigger role and move to New York, right? Like, thinking that this is going to help solve my existential crisis. But it only got worse. Like, of course, it only got worse. The feelings only got stronger. I was almost like, borderline depressed because I was feeling this way and I didn't know how to solve for it. And I started reading up a lot more. Like, I started reading up on spirituality, started listening to podcasts. I still couldn't figure out what it was. I still couldn't figure out what it was. And then started my journey into seeking, right? So the first part of this process was discovery, where I read as much as I could. I listened to as many gurus as I could. I tried as many modalities as I could, from therapy to working with life coaches to plant medicine to alternative healing modalities, anything, right? Like, anything under the sun. I was like, I want to try because I want to feel better, right? Like, I want to find these answers. I want to know where this is coming from. The second part of it was
You know
exploration.
what's sorry to interrupt you, but what's interesting is a lot of people when they find themselves in situations similar to yours, I don't think they even venture out to explore how can I feel better or what can I do. When you say alternative healing modalities, right? Even to go to therapy, most people have
Yeah,
resistance, right?
yeah,
Like, there are so many people around me, I have to keep pushing them saying, hey, maybe it'll really help if you go to a
yeah,
therapist. And they know they need to, but there's so much resistance, just the
yeah,
idea of, so to say, these new age healing
yeah,
modalities. You don't
Yeah.
trust them. So I'm glad you decided to explore adventure that bit. Yeah.
Yeah, luckily, luckily, my sister is a psychologist. But
Oh,
then, although we like, she's a psychologist, I personally didn't grow up with people going to therapy, right? Like it
yeah,
wasn't like a mainstream thing. It wasn't really spoken about. So the only reason I kind of even tried it and was lucky enough to know about it was because of my sister. And even then I was very apprehensive, in the beginning. Even I was like, I knew how I was feeling, like, and it wasn't good. But at the same time
yeah,
I'm like, oh, I don't know, but like, am I like, I don't know if this is for me. Like, even I found that resistance within me because it's so subconsciously embedded
yeah,
into you, right? Like
yeah.
this
This
phenomenon of what therapy is supposed to be, or like who it's supposed to be for.
for
Finally in 2020 I was lucky enough to travel, like solo travel by myself. And those 6 months that I spent by myself was when it all kind of came together. And I can't attribute it just to the travel. It was definitely like all of these things that I was trying, which helped
come
me peel some
together.
of the layers. And then through the travel, I met incredible people through whom, I was able to find answers through perspective. It wasn't preachy. It was just,
Yeah,
you see people living a life that is so free, and I'm like, oh my god, I want that. Right? Like, I want to be that person. I met a lot of different coaches yet again when I was traveling. But that experience of putting yourself in a place that is very uncomfortable, but at the same time, you don't really have any rules on how you should be, right? Like, that's what kind of enabled this growth within me. And then came this answer, right? Like from 2017 to 2020 I was seeking and seeking and seeking. And finally I was like, holy shit, man, like, this is what my purpose is, like, where I want to put something together, which enables people who are on such crossroads or who are simply on this path of growth, right? Because we are all evolving, like, as human beings we're all continuously evolving, but it's not
right.
always easy for us to navigate those transitions or changes.
Yeah,
So I went back to New York and I was like, okay, I want to actually put something together which is a combination of all these different modalities that I tried and I experienced, including travel. And for someone who was on a path like me, who came from this mainstream path, the career path, or who saw success as like as a conventional way, right? Like, who's
yeah,
super used to this modern like way of life or lifestyle, but at the same time who resonated with all of these modalities or tools of inner work,
yeah,
and club it to help people be better leaders, or better entrepreneurs, or better teammates, whatever it is, but to help find your voice and your path and your purpose. So that's how the shift happened from this digital marketing super hardcore corporate world to now curating retreats. And it was a pretty long answer, but like, that was pretty much like the path to discovery of of where I am and what I do right now.
It's very
no,
interesting
so
to
to
know.
from Yeah, it is. I was about to say, to go from looking for your purpose to saying I will help others find purpose, because it took me X amount of time, and it shouldn't. I mean, if it can happen quicker and if I can facilitate those conversations, right? That's a great story. The other thing that really stuck with me was, how when you traveled, you met a bunch of people who had different perspectives. That's such a calm. I mean, not to take away from your experience. I mean, that's been my experience as well when I
Yeah,
traveled last year in Goa, and I met
yeah,
a bunch of people there whose experience is also very similar. People who are seeking
exactly.
answers or looking to shift, right? It's
Yeah,
mostly when they travel and meet new people, hear new voices, and have new experiences, is when they're open to these perspectives, I guess. Right.
absolutely.
Thanks for that. Abhilasha, tell us about you. Tell us about your travel stories.
So I'm Abhilasha. I live in San Diego, California. For the last 7 years, I was born and raised in India, of course, and like Neha said, had a typical childhood of, be in a good school, achieve, do good, and somehow that was okay with me, in the sense that I am driven by two things in life. One is enabling and empowering others, and the other is finding balance in everything that I do. And
Right.
whatever has happened in my life, from my college to my work, or having kids or friends or a larger ecosystem of family, I've always been able to do those things, right? So I am a learning and development professional, and I've been that for the last 10 years. So I started as an engineer, and then when I was at Infosys, I realized training and development is something which is exciting to me. At that point, it was exciting. It looked really lucrative from the point of view of, hey, how nice it will be to be that stand up trainer standing in front of so many people and talking about a skill or improving their professional skills, business knowledge, etc. But as I spent more and more time in learning and development, I understand it is more about, not so much about being that stand up trainer in front of people, but behind the scenes, how are you making sure that you understand people's needs, you enable them, you empower them with what they need. And I'm not talking about a higher purpose in life right now, but simple things like
Yeah.
how can I make them do their job better or excel in what they want to do. And this is work wise. Even otherwise, I have that mindset to help people achieve what they want to, by helping out a friend, or motivating someone to do what they have been trying to do for some time, be it my cousins, my family, or anybody I know in general. I derive genuine happiness from doing that. So I think the work which I do, and where the how I'm doing it, it resonates with my core values. So far it's going well. we'll see we'll see how what
That's
future
right.
holds for me. So right now I have two full-time jobs. One, like I said, being a professional in my organization, and other being a mom of two kids, which is a full-time job in itself. So I'm kind of juggling, and again trying to find my balance, doing everything that I do. That's me.
Hey, thanks for that, Abhilasha. You know what? When you say you have two values and that's what you're trying to live by, there are very few people who are aware of their core values, and to then say I am trying to live by these core values. I mean, most of us are just taking the path of least resistance because we come with so much conditioning, right? Given our how we were raised and we want to achieve, and we measure our success in very conventional terms against our peers and all of that. So it fills me up with joy when I hear people say, these are my values, or this is who I think I am, and people come with that kind of awareness, right? Those are so much more deeper conversations that you can have with those people as opposed to just having some small talk. Uh, and when you say you are in learning and development, or you started off saying, I want to be a trainer, and that looks really interesting. In some
Yeah.
ways, I think that's most retreat hosts also come from like a similar place. They also see a capacity in themselves to enable and empower others in their own way, I guess. And maybe someday you'll make for like a great retreat host, Abhilasha.
Yeah, some food for thought there. Definitely. Definitely.
And right on about being a mom is a full job, a full time job, man. Like some of my friends, I see them. I mean, kudos to you guys. I think, yeah, that's next level stuff. So Abhilasha, I also know that you're super into yoga, based on what we used to do in college as well, right? A lot of
Yeah.
interesting
Yeah.
stuff. So how did you get into yoga? Do you have you ever thought about combining that on your travels, or how do you practice your self care? so to say, kind of stuff.
I'm glad you asked that question. So there's a very interesting story on how I got into yoga. So I was pursuing my engineering in my hometown, and my best friend was pursuing it in Manipal. So she had come back during our semester break, and that's when her mom dragged both of us to a yoga class, which we didn't want to go. But we went anyway, thinking that it will be a good time to sort of just catch up and chit chat while we are doing yoga. Just sit on the mat and talk. It's fine. So we didn't take yoga very seriously at that point. And while my friend left after the semester break, I, for some reason, continued going there to the yoga ashram. So it was not a yoga studio as we have it today. It is a proper yoga ashram in my hometown of Bhilai, led by a guruji, as we used to call him. And it just felt nice for me to go there and learn all these asanas, and also a little bit of meditation which he taught, and recite some mantras, etc. So it felt really good, and slowly I saw the first visible benefit was like, oh, I'm feeling more fit, I'm losing weight. But very soon I realized that weight loss is just a fringe benefit, and there is so much more to yoga than physical or weight loss part of it, right? And
Yeah.
that helped me a lot in terms of making me more composed, getting that harmony in all my relationships. And I realized it over a period of time that yoga is in some way, shape, or form playing that role in my life. And I could never
Right.
stop doing it. I joined Infosys, and I also, Mysore is known for yoga as
Yeah.
well. So I practiced a bit of yoga there as well. And then I did my MBA. So wherever I went with my yoga mat, right? I did not necessarily go to an ashram, but I was living my life on and off the mat. I kept practicing it, not, and I do not say I'm an advanced practitioner. I would say I'm at most an intermediate level, but it's about being persistent, being consistent with yoga, and believing that it makes a difference. So even when I got pregnant, when I was pregnant, 8 months till 9 months, I did yoga. Postpartum, I did yoga. So I think over the last, it has been, wow, 18 years that I have been doing yoga. And if you when I say I'm doing yoga, if you're imagining me right now in a very serene place with birds chirping and no interruptions, that is far from the truth. I have toys around my yoga mat, my kids are going under me, sometimes above me. It's far from ideal, but
Yeah.
you have to keep going. That's what
Yeah.
yoga is, and I try to find at least 25-30 minutes to do that yoga, to just center myself, set an intention, or just calm my nerves, which you need as a mother a lot of times. So yeah, so that was my story. That's how yoga, I started with yoga, and I have been able to stick with it so far.
That's nice. That's a nice story. So, have you ever thought about the idea of, I don't know, going on like a yoga retreat, or sort of taking your self care practice to the next level in any way, whatever ways comes naturally to you?
I have, to be honest, but more often than not, people like us end up thinking, I do not have time right now at this point in
Yeah.
life to do that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think the best time to go is when you think you don't have time to go. And that includes myself. Because that is one of the reasons you should go to retreat when you think that I'm pressed for time. I need more balance. I have to do so much. So
Yeah.
yes, I have thought about it, and I should do it at some point in my life. Travel is one thing, right? I do travel, and that breaks the monotony of life. You break from your regular routines, and you explore a new place. But a retreat, like Neha was saying, it is about a higher purpose, a higher goal which you are seeking in
Yeah.
your life. So
Yeah.
to be able to do that is it sounds incredible to me. So someday, for sure.
Fingers crossed.
So I'm going on
Yep.
record to say that I have to do this, so I have to now.
Yeah, and such a good
uh,
point, right? That you said that it's when you think you really don't have time is the perfect time
yeah.
to go on something
Time
like
to
this. Because
go.
yeah, because sometimes it is about seeking higher purpose, and at the same time it's about seeking that balance that you spoke about, right, Abhilasha? Like, where you said, and
Yeah,
one of your core values is balance. And sometimes, just given how much we are doing and how many things hit us in our day to day, we lose that balance, like we lose that
Yeah.
equilibrium. And somewhere we need to reset, right? Like, and that's what these experiences give us the opportunity to do, because it's completely disconnecting, and then going
yeah,
back in and saying, okay, now this is how I'm going to spend my time, right? Because this is what gives me joy. And um, this is how I want to actually live my life, and doing things that give me joy. This is a
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
really
True.
big.
Neha, did you recently post about how a mom came on your last retreat or something? You
Yeah,
did,
yeah,
right?
I did. Yeah, so you know I started curating these retreats, like I said, wanting to enable and empower and help women trying who are on those crossroads to find themselves again, right? So when I talk about purpose, sometimes we grow up either not knowing it, or other times we know it, and then because life happens, we forget it, right?
Yeah.
And we just need some reminders. So
Yeah.
we had, on both the retreats, we did have moms, but also new moms coming in, because um, as you're entering this new phase of life, right? Like, your entire identity kind of becomes about being a mom, right? And all other parts of your life become deprioritized. So usually, the moms who come on the retreat are trying to find that balance, of course, within themselves. Balancing their career with being a mom, with being a partner, managing family, taking care of the health. Like, they're navigating and juggling so much. So it's about disconnecting and trying to really prioritize self-care is one. The second is this piece on identity, right? Like, where you have forgotten who you were before you were a mom, and suddenly it's like, oh my god, I had all these dreams and ambitions and um, wishes for myself, but I've given all that up to be a mom, and it's all right for that certain like period, but post that, how do I find myself again? Right, like these are the broad questions that moms come with. And we were fortunately able to accommodate, this the specific post that I put up about was a mom who really really wanted to come, but she had two very young kids, 1.5 and 3, so there was no way she
Wow.
could leave them and come, right? So she asked if she could bring her kids along, and that she would bring her dad along, who could babysit them while she's at the retreat. And the space was big enough, because we booked out the entire resort, where the kids and her dad could
Yeah.
stay in one of the cottages a little bit far out, from where the workshops were happening, so that there's no disturbance for the workshop participants. But at the
Yeah.
same time, she was able to kind of prioritize her care by attending, by being in that space which is healing and uplifting and grounding, all the while not feeling guilty of her leaving her kids,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So hugely, I mean, for me personally, I was just so grateful that I was able to enable that journey for her. But
Yeah.
watching her over those 5 days, going through that journey of just receiving, I think that's what I see in new moms. Like, it's like there's so much giving happening. There's just like taking care of others, nurturing, um just holding space for everybody else, that they forget that they need to receive as well. Right?
Yeah.
um
No,
yeah, it
absolutely.
was pretty special. It was pretty special to have her come.
Yeah, I mean, as moms, sometimes we forget that you have to put on your oxygen mask first before you
Yeah.
Yes.
put it on others. And if you're not able to take care of yourself or have that state of mind or stay fit or whatever it is, right, for
Yeah.
your peace of mind, you cannot probably provide that for your family. So it's very easy
Yeah.
to just not be ready to receive, like you said, but it's
Yeah.
important to.
Yeah. Kudos to her dad to help her with that. I
Yeah,
don't think there
Yeah,
are
I
a
was
lot
gonna
of
no.
say
people who
that
do
that's so
that.
good.
So the next retreat, it's in Costa Rica. It's end of August, right?
Yes, the next retreat is in Costa Rica, August 31st to the 5th of September. Um, as with all retreats, it's 5 days in person. But one of the key things that we do, with these retreats is the focus is on I look at life as holistic, right? Like when we're living life, it's not just like we're not just focused on being better in our career, or we're not just focused on being a better mom, or we're not just focused on wanting to be really good with our health and practicing these like yoga or fitness and so on, right? Everything's happening at the same time. So over the
Yeah.
5 days, we actually approach it from a place of holistic growth or holistic wellness, where we touch upon these eight areas, right? So there's career, there is financial wellness, there is health, there is community, there's adventure, there is like relationships, growing in your relationships, there is spiritual growth, and there is friends and family, like how do we kind of grow our relationships there. And the way it's curated is going really into our belief systems to, yes, like identify those core values, like who we are, but who we are beneath all of these externalities, and this conditioning, right? Going in depth, and wherever there's misalignment in each of those areas, how do we kind of navigate practically to get to that alignment, right? So when I say, let's take the example of financial wellness, right? A lot of people come in feeling like, yes, like, I want to be successful, I want to make money, but deep down there's some hesitation about making money. So there's a misalignment there because of our relationship um, with money, or how our conditioning has been. So in my case, like I grew up in a middle class home, right? Somewhere I was taught that too much money is bad, it's evil. And so there's this conflict now within me of, but I kind of want to make money, but internally, subconsciously, I'm feeling like this is bad. And it's about like, how do we go down into the depth of it to shift that belief system, and then we layer it with practical tools of enabling these women with like investing 101, budgeting 101, planning for retirement 101, or motherhood, like how do you plan for a kid 101, so that once that belief system is shifted, you're able to concretely actually sustainably change some of those things in your life, right? So that's really how the retreat is curated for all areas of life. Same with nutrition, same with health, same with career, right? Because a lot of times, think about like Abhilasha's journey. For 18 years, you've been practicing yoga because you've seen the benefit. A lot of times, we want to make these shifts in our life, right? Like I also want to practice yoga like all the time, but somewhere there's a conflict in what I want on the outside and who I am on the inside, right? Like,
Yeah.
because something is like resisting, like there's a resistance, and the goal of these retreats is to break that resistance and help people
Right.
find tools that work for them. So it's happening in Costa Rica. One other thing that we also facilitate is, it's super nice in a retreat setting. When we go to a retreat, we're super disconnected from reality.
Yeah.
It's a community of uplifting individuals. There's a lot of like support, love. It's a safe space. And then post that, we go back to reality and we're like, oh no, now I can't implement what I've learned, right? Because the support system may not be there. So we also have 4 weeks of post retreat virtual sessions to enable that accountability, to enable that sustainable shift in habit building, because that's really how growth happens, right? Because there is
Yeah,
that in-person
Yeah.
transformation, but real growth actually happens in baby steps, when we
yeah,
go back to reality and live our life. So that's
yeah.
typically how the retreats are curated.
What you were saying about the post retreat sessions and post retreat integration, right? That's
Yeah,
been my experience as well. Even your regular travel that you do, you're in this like chill space when you're traveling,
yeah,
but the day you come back, even if you've taken a vacation for 2 weeks, you're
yeah,
back into your hustle mode, or you're back
yeah,
into your, everyday chaos. How do you retain that chill for a few days longer in your life is something I always used to
yeah,
wonder. So it's really necessary to have that post retreat integration sessions, I guess. And I really want to hear stories from you, but because this is a women's retreat and about 10 women come together, right? I think there's also a element of you hear other stories and learn from their stories, so to say, and implement that for you. Or
yeah,
not everything works for everybody, but
yeah.
do you have any cool stories of, that bonding? How do you facilitate that bonding in these retreats?
Yeah, so many actually. I just want to start by saying community is half the healing in itself. You know, when you have
Yeah,
people who are able to listen to you, who are able to hear you, and then come and say, "Hey, you're not alone in this. I have experienced the same thing. I've gone through a similar thing, or I am experiencing the same thing." Right? That
yeah,
in itself is so powerful. And in every retreat, the community of women who come in, you know, they uplift each other from a place of just pure acceptance and understanding to begin with. And the way we curate for this is there are always listening circles, sharing circles. It's never, the setup is not like a classroom, right? At these retreats, it's not
yeah,
like, hey, like you come sit and listen to some coach tell you what to do. It's not preachy. It's about
yeah,
enabling a depth of conversation that is real and raw, right? We have people coming in and talking about, I'll just take the example of motherhood, right? Because we've been speaking about it. Somebody coming in and saying, hey, like, I've been feeling like a horrible mother because my child hasn't been I'm having trouble with breastfeeding. Right now, this is like nowhere on the agenda, but it's the setup that enables that conversation, right? Like when we talk about feelings of shame, where do they come from? And she's going through this right now, and she's saying that, I just feel so terrible about who I am as a person. And then you have these group of women around her, not shaming her, not saying, oh my god, how can you, or not saying that, oh my god, like, yeah, you are a bad mother, right? But it's about like holding space for her to say, this means nothing about the kind of mother you are, that this is normal, right? Like this happens. And
Yeah.
sharing their own stories about their struggle with motherhood, right? It may not be the exact same thing, but just to hear somebody else uh, share their struggles makes it so real, and then you don't feel so alone anymore, right? So
yeah,
there are stories like that, and then there are stories also like the group of women, the age range is quite wide. So one of the retreats, the youngest person was like 28, the oldest was like 55, right? And there, the interesting part is when we open up conversations about, yeah, let's say career growth, financial growth, or just growth is like you as a woman in the corporate space. There is this young person trying so hard to prove themselves, right? Like grow up this corporate
yeah,
ladder, like kill herself to get there. And then you have the older person's wisdom, coming in and saying, hey, like it's okay, like it's okay, you don't need to kill yourself. And even there you have this diversity of perspectives, right? And that's what also happens with
yeah,
or any like new form of experience where you bring a group of people together who are able to like create a space that is accepting of
yeah,
different perspectives. That's Those are some of the stories. And these examples are about how the community together, it's a collective experience of going to the depth of how we really feeling, and there's no judgment. There's absolutely no judgment in whatever comes out. Some thoughts, some feelings we ourselves don't want to see within ourselves, right? But it's a part of us. so
Yeah,
so it's a space that
true.
brings it out. It is deep, sometimes it is difficult to face it, but having that group around you makes it fun, makes it
Yeah,
lighter, makes it more human to to
yeah,
accept that, hey, it's okay, I'm just human, right? But the important thing is I'm trying to work on it, and that I'm trying to
yeah.
be better.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, how do you, because a lot of it is revolves so much around self improvement and self
Yeah,
growth, right? Which can feel heavy.
yeah,
Uh, um, I think meeting new people is a good way to keep it real and have
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
Because as we grow up, it anyway gets difficult to meet new people and make new friends. Neha, so how do you make the retreat fun and light, right? Outside the workshops, what are the other
Yeah.
activities that go on?
Yeah, yeah, it's super important to balance it out, because fun
Yeah.
and, I mean, growth comes, a lot of times we perceive the self-improvement path as it's supposed to be super heavy and dark, and we have to cry it out and stuff. Yes, and actually growth also comes through having fun, right? So
Yeah.
the agenda typically involves, I mean, the Costa Rica agenda, we have surfing, we're gonna go see some waterfall hikes, there's belly dancing, we're gonna do a permaculture visit, like go to like a permaculture farm. We
Okay.
have like an essential oils making workshop, which is just about like playing with oils, learning, right? So in the agenda, we have a lot of activities incorporated for you to um, have fun, just be yourself, do your thing, learn a new skill if it calls out to you. But if not,
Yeah.
like, it's just fun, right? And also, like I was saying, the collective energy is such that it never stays heavy, because you
Right.
release and it's gone. And actually sometimes we look at something that's holding us down so deep down, right? And once we say it out loud, um, and we feel seen and we feel accepted, we are able to actually joke about it, right? Like for
Yeah.
me, I look back and those years of like 2016, 2017, I was definitely borderline depressed, like depressed from a place of like I couldn't find meaning in anything I did. I look back and
Right.
I'm like, oh man, like what was I caught up in? Right? Like once the healing happens, you're actually able to like
Yeah.
joke about it, because that's
Laugh
what
at
life
it.
is, right? It's always this ebb and flow of
Yeah. True.
of like the high and low, right? So we always make sure that it's a lot of fun. And then our coaches, the coaches who are gonna be there, they're incredible, dude. They are so much fun. Like they do such powerful work, but that energy, right? It's next level to make sure that, um, yeah, to make sure that we don't forget to have fun. In fact, like our yoga coach, like our yoga teacher in Costa Rica, Christiani, she comes from Brazil. She grew up in Brazil, and just culturally, that energy that she comes with,
Yeah.
it's so amazing to be around that kind of energy, because even in this like super zen practice, which is yoga, she makes it so much fun. It's just
Right.
because not everybody has the same kind of ability with their body, right? When we think of yoga,
Yeah.
and sometimes we're in these like positions that seem so ridiculous, and you're like struggling to like get into it. So
Yeah.
it's about having fun through the process itself, and I think that's what they remind us of, the coaches.
Yeah. Who is a good candidate to come on the retreat? Who will it benefit, and how does it help? And
So I would say the ideal person for an experience like this is someone who's looking to grow, and balance their lifestyle to live a life that is more aligned with who they are. So it's either someone who knows who they are and aren't able to implement it, or
Right.
the other ideal kind person is someone who's trying to navigate what they want, right? So you're in a place of trying to figure out what gives me joy, who am I, what are those things
Right.
that I want to create balance in my life. So these are the two broad group of people. And from a more demographic standpoint, it is of course curated for women or those who identify as women. It is typically within the age group of, like I said, like late 20s to late 50s, because some of the sessions are curated for women who are trying to balance both, their personal lives and careers. It's also for
Right.
those who are, either in the corporate world or entrepreneurs or, creators or change makers, right?
Right.
They would find it more resonant. And of course, those who are open, because some of these experiences may seem uncomfortable, um,
Right.
but if you're closed off, and if you come with the mindset of this is never gonna work for me, right? Like,
Yeah.
uh, then you're not able to receive what's coming in. So
Yeah.
it is for those
True.
who are open to growing. It is for those who are open to learning, and who are ready, to break some patterns, because this is all about breaking patterns,
Right.
and to step into, like I keep saying, it's about like leveling up from a place of we're operating at this current operating model, right? It's worked fine so far, but now it's time to level up to a new operating model.
New. Yeah.
And you know how, like, even our phones or devices, they upgrade like overnight. Like, you're supposed to put the
Yeah.
battery in, like, I mean, the charger in, while
Yeah.
that upgrade is happening. It's exactly like that. Like, the retreat is just the charger, for you to come upgrade and go back and
Yeah.
live a life
I think
that's more full.
when you want to level up is a good way to say it. I
Yeah,
think you
yeah,
go to a retreat when you sort of want to level
exactly.
up in life.
Yeah.
And what does it? How does it help? Maybe if you can tell us some stories of your previous, of the people who have
Yeah.
come onto your previous retreats.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Some of the stories are, so you either make a huge career shift. So we had a woman, late 50s, who came in wanting to figure out if she should quit her job
Okay.
after 30 years, at this bank, right? Huge
Yeah.
decision, right? Huge, like 30
Yeah.
years in a certain industry. Now she wants to quit and become an entrepreneur, right? Not easy
Right.
at all.
Yeah.
But post retreat, she made the leap. Like, a month in, she put her papers down, um,
Wow.
took the leap. Now she runs her own business. Yeah, right. Like, pretty, like, navigating this new path. But the retreat actually gave her the courage to do that.
Yeah.
Um, Courage and the confidence. And part of it came through seeing other people, who've done it.
Yeah.
Part of it came through just finding her own inner voice and saying, okay, actually, this job doesn't give me joy anymore. And I don't want
Yeah.
to spend the rest of my life, in
Yeah.
this in the security. And then the other part of it is also practically, how do you make it happen? What are the
Right.
practical steps? Like, financially, what does it mean? Like, emotionally, what does it mean? Right? So that's what the retreat gave her the space to do. And then, like, the last story I want to share is, we also had somebody who came in after breaking up with someone after 9 years, right? She basically was in this place of, I thought I'd get married to this guy, and now I've gone
Right.
through this horrible breakup. Huge hit on her self-worth, right? She was
Right.
just like, I feel like her entire identity and worth was dependent on this relationship. And then, having broken up, she couldn't
Right.
see herself as attractive anymore, right? She's like, oh my god, I can never put myself out there because it's so fearful now. She came to the retreat yet again, 5 days of rewiring some beliefs and patterns of where does worth come from. How do we start attaching worth to this one relationship? Like, how we feel about our own beauty, you know um, become about this one element in our life, right? A huge shift in her seeing herself differently. And post retreat, she actually sent me a text saying, "Hey, I've started dating again. This is the first date that I've gone on in in so long, right?" And to be able to approach that from a place of confidence and a place of abundance versus a place of lack, right? These decisions that
Right.
we,
Yeah.
because I mean, dude, life is messy, right? And we get caught up in some of these like beliefs of who we are and our self worth, and how, yeah, like how. How beautiful we are or how capable we are in
Yeah.
the externality. But some of these stories are really about like helping you see yourself for what you are, helping you believe in yourself. And then the change you see is whichever area of life you want to make that change, you approach that with more confidence. Right. So
Right.
these are some examples of the shifts we've seen, be it career, be it relationships, be it like eating right, be it like being more
Right.
empathetic at work.
Please, totally.
Because
Oh God, that feels it. I feel so good when I listen to stories of how someone overcame, some hurdle or some struggle, and they came out on the other side all bright and lit up. I'm like,
yeah.
yay, you go, girl.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, that self belief, right? Like where you're just like, I can do anything, I can do
Yeah, it's
anything I
a
put my mind to. That's
yeah,
really the feeling the retreat enables. And then post
yeah,
that, like I was saying, the integration process helps with like keeping that spirit alive,
yeah.
and truly holding ourselves accountable, to make the change.
Yeah. And to be honest, it feels so good to listen to these stories. And all these struggles are something that happens with everybody, right? It's
Yeah.
just that we don't have the right playbook to sort of navigate these. And then you
Exactly.
hear these stories and you're like, hey, I could have done this too. Or this other person I know probably could benefit from something like this. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's about it. Thanks for your time, Abhilasha. Thanks for your time, Neha. I really hope the people who are coming on your retreat this year have an amazing time.
Yeah.
Thank
I'm looking
you.
forward to hearing those experiences sometime later.